Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the live studios of the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. And today the live studios at the Bhajan Kutir of yours truly here in Govardhan. And it will be for the next few days till we move to Delhi. We welcome all of you out there in cyberspace. I can't tell you how much happiness that I am receiving from knowing how many devotees are out there reading Prabhupada's books and getting spiritually revived by Prabhupada's association, and it's giving me new life also, and it has become my life and soul. So thank you, all of you. Okay, so we've reached the third canto, 22nd chapter, and Devahuti and Kardama Muni have gotten together by the grace of Swayambhuva Manu, and actually Lord Vishnu, because he was the one that made the promise to Kardama after he had done his austerities. And in the heart, we found out that he inspired Swayambhuva Manu, and we read a verse which I was looking for years. I was trying, because the question came up once in a class, whether or not, Swayambhuva Manu knew who the husband would be. But then we found out that Devahuti had heard about Kardama Muni from Narada Muni, and therefore she had fixed her mind on him. So it was already decided by her what she wanted. So anyway, now we're on the third canto, 22nd chapter. We're starting from 26, but before we do, let's hear the prayer, which has become very dear to all of us. The prayers of Sanatana Goswami glorifying the Srimad-Bhagavatam from the Sri Krishna Lila Stava, and it goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwandotita Ditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varsha Kshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Mad Mahadana Mad Nishtadaka Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu Saduta Dayin Adini Chuchata Kara Hanamun Chagadachin Mam Premna Rit Kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me, always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So the deed is done. Swayambhuva Manu has delivered his daughter, who wanted to marry Kardama Muni, to the ashram of Kardama Muni. And now the story continues. Text 26, chapter 22. After asking and obtaining the great sage's permission to leave, the monarch mounted his chariot with his wife and started for his capital, followed by his retinue. Along the way, he saw the prosperity of the tranquil seers, beautiful hermitages on both sides, on both the charming banks of the Saraswati, the river so agreeable to saintly persons. Purport. As cities are constructed in the modern age with great engineering and architectural craftsmanship, so in days gone by there were neighborhoods called Rishikulas, where great saintly persons resided. In India there are still many magnificent places for spiritual understanding. There are many rishis and saintly persons living in nice cottages on the banks of the Ganges and Yamuna for purposes of spiritual cultivation. We might add on next to Govardhan Hill. While passing through the Rishikulas, the king and his party were very much satisfied with the beauty of the cottages and hermitages. It is stated here, Pashan Ashrama Sampada. The king was very much pleased at the sight. Text 28. Overjoyed to know of his arrival, his subjects came forth from Brahmavarta to greet their returning lord with songs, prayers, and musical instruments. A little different than today, is it? Purport. It is the custom of the citizens of a kingdom's capital to receive the king when he returns from a tour. There is a similar description when Krishna returned to Dwarka after the battle of Kurukshetra. At that time he was received by all classes of citizens at the gate of the city. Formerly, capital cities were surrounded by walls, and there were different gates for regular entrance. Even in Delhi today there are old gates, and some other old cities have such gates where citizens would gather to receive the king. Here also the cities of Barishmati, the capital of Brahmavarta, the kingdom of Swayambhuva, came nicely dressed to receive the emperor with decorations and musical instruments. Text 29 and 30. The city of Barhishmati, rich in all kinds of wealth, was so called because Lord Vishnu's hair dropped there from his body when he manifested himself as Lord Boar. As he shook his body, this very hair fell and turned into blades of evergreen kusha grass and kasha, another kind of grass used for mats, by means of which the sages worshipped Lord Vishnu after defeating the demons who had interfered with the performance of their sacrifices. So now we know why the kusha grass is so sacred. Purport. Any place directly connected with the Supreme Lord is called Pitastan. Barhishmati, the capital of Swayambhuva Manu, was exalted not because the city was very rich in wealth and opulence, but because the hairs of Lord Varaha fell at this very spot. These hairs of the Lord later grew as green grass, and the sages used to worship the Lord with that grass after the time when the Lord killed the demon Hiranyaksha. Yagya means Vishnu, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita, karma is described as yagyartha. Yagyartha karma means work done only for the satisfaction of Vishnu. If something is done for sense gratification or any other purpose, it will be binding upon the worker. If one wants to be freed from the reaction of his work, he must perform everything for the satisfaction of Vishnu, or Yagya. In the capital of Swayambhuva Manu, Barhishmati, these particular functions were being performed by the great sages and saintly persons. Text 31. Manu spread a seat of kushas and kashas and worshipped the Lord, the personality of Godhead, by whose grace he had obtained the rule of the terrestrial globe. Purport. Manu was the father of mankind. Let's see what the word for globe is here. Bhuvan. Purport. Manu is the father of mankind, and therefore from Manu comes the word man, or in Sanskrit, manusha. Those who are in a better position in the world, having sufficient wealth, should especially take lessons from Manu, who acknowledged his kingdom and opulence to be gifts from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus always engaged in devotional service. Similarly, the descendants of Manu, or human beings, especially those who are situated in a well-to-do condition, must consider that whatever riches they have are gifts from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those riches should be utilized for the service of the Lord in sacrifices performed to please Him. That is the way of utilizing wealth in opulence. No one can achieve wealth, opulence, good birth, a beautiful body, or nice education without the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, those who are in possession of such valuable facilities must acknowledge their gratefulness to the Lord by worshiping Him and offering whatever they have received from Him. When such acknowledgement is given, either by a family, nation, or society, their abode becomes almost like Vaikuntha, and it becomes free from the operation of the threefold miseries of this material world. In the modern age, the mission of Krishna consciousness is for everyone to acknowledge the supremacy of Lord Krishna. Whatever one has in his possession must be considered a gift by the grace of the Lord. Everyone, therefore, should engage in devotional service through Krishna consciousness. If one wants to be happy and peaceful in his position, either as a householder or citizen or member of human society, one must promote devotional service for the pleasure of the Lord. Text 32. Having entered the city of Barishmati, in which he had previously lived, Manu entered his palace, which was filled with an atmosphere that eradicated the three miseries of material existence. Purport. The material world, or material existential life, is filled with threefold miseries. Miseries pertaining to the body and mind, miseries pertaining to natural disturbances, and miseries inflicted by other living entities. Human society is meant to create a spiritual atmosphere by spreading the spirit of Krishna consciousness. The miseries of material existence cannot affect the status of Krishna consciousness. It is not that the miseries of the material world completely vanish when one takes to Krishna consciousness, but for one who is Krishna conscious, the miseries of material existence have no effect. We cannot stop the miseries of the material atmosphere, but Krishna consciousness is the antiseptic method to protect us from being affected by the miseries of material existence. For a Krishna conscious person, both living in heaven and living in hell are equal. How Swayambhuva Manu created an atmosphere wherein he was not affected by material miseries is explained in the following verses. Text 33. Emperor Swayambhuva Manu enjoyed life with his wife and subjects and fulfilled his desires without being disturbed by unwanted principles contrary to the process of religion. Celestial musicians and their wives sang in chorus about the pure reputation of the emperor, and early in the morning, every day, he used to listen to the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with a loving heart. Purport. Human society is actually meant for realization of perfection in Krishna consciousness. There is no restriction against living with a wife and children, but life should be so conducted that one may not go against the principles of religion, economic development, regulated sense enjoyment, and ultimately liberation from material existence. The Vedic principles are designed in such a way that the conditioned souls who have come to this material existence may be guided in fulfilling their material desires and at the same time be liberated and go back to Godhead, back home. It is understood that Emperor Swayambhuva Manu enjoyed his household life by following these principles. It is stated here that early in the morning there were musicians who used to sing with musical instruments about the glories of the Lord, and the emperor, with his family, personally used to hear about the pastimes of the Supreme Person. This custom is still prevalent in India in some of the royal families and temples. Professional musicians sing with shanais, and the sleeping members of the house gradually get up from their beds in a pleasing atmosphere. During bedtime also, the singers sing songs in relationship with the pastimes of the Lord, with Shanai accompaniment, and the householders gradually fall asleep, remembering the glories of the Lord. In every house, in addition to the singing program, there is an arrangement for Bhagavatam lectures in the evening. Family members sit down, hold Hare Krishna Kirtan, hear narrations from Srimad-Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, and enjoy music before going to bed. The atmosphere created by this Sankirtan movement lives in their hearts, and while sleeping they also dream of singing the glorification of the Lord. In such a way, perfection of Krishna consciousness can be attained. This practice is very old, as learned from this verse of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Millions of years ago, Swayambhuva Manu used to avail himself of this opportunity to live householder life in the peace and prosperity of a Krishna-conscious atmosphere. As far as temples are concerned, in each and every royal palace or rich man's house, inevitably there's a nice temple, and the members of the household rise early in the morning and go to the temple to see the Mangalarati ceremony. The Mangalarati ceremony, Mangalatraika. The Mangalatraika ceremony is the first worship of the morning. In the Aratrik ceremony, a light is offered in circles before the deities, as are a conch shell and flowers and a fan. The Lord is supposed to rise early in the morning and take some light refreshment and give audience to the devotees. The devotees then go back to the house or sing the glories of the Lord in the temple. The early morning ceremony still takes place in Indian temples and palaces. Temples are meant for the assembly of the general public. Temples within palaces are especially for the royal families. But in many of these palace temples, the public is also allowed to visit. The temple of the king of Jaipur is situated within the palace, but the public is allowed to assemble. If one goes there, he will see that the temple is always crowded with at least 500 devotees. After the Mangalaratrika ceremony, they sit down together and sing the glories of the Lord with musical instruments, and thus enjoy life. Temple worship by the royal family is also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, where it is stated that those who fail to achieve success in the Bhakti Yoga principles within one life are given a chance to take birth in the next life in a family of rich men, or in a royal family, or family of learned brahmanas or devotees. If one gets the opportunity to take birth in these families, he can achieve the facilities of a Krishna conscious atmosphere without difficulty. A child born in that Krishna atmosphere is sure to develop Krishna consciousness. The perfection which he failed to attain in his last life is again offered in this life, and he can make himself perfect without fail. Text 34. Thus Swayambhuva Manu was a saintly king. Although absorbed in material happiness, he was not dragged to the lowest grade of life, for he always enjoyed his material happiness in a Krishna-conscious atmosphere. Purport. The kingly happiness of material enjoyment generally drags one to the lowest grade of life, namely degradation to animal life, because of unrestricted sense enjoyment. But Swayambhuva Manu was considered as good as a saintly sage because the atmosphere created in his kingdom and home was completely Krishna conscious. The case is similar with the conditioned souls in general. They have come into this material life for sense gratification, but if they are able to create a Krishna conscious atmosphere as depicted here, or as prescribed in Vedic in revealed scriptures, by temple worship and household deity worship, then in spite of their material enjoyment, they can make advancement in pure Krishna consciousness, without a doubt. At the present moment, modern civilization is too much attached to the material way of life or sense gratification. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement can give the people in general the best opportunity to utilize their human life in the midst of material enjoyment. Krishna consciousness does not stop them in their propensity for material enjoyment, but simply regulates their habits in the life of sense enjoyment. In spite of their enjoying the material advantages, they can be liberated in this very life by practicing Krishna consciousness by this simple method of chanting the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Text 35. Consequently, although his duration of life gradually came to an end, his long life, consisting of a Manvantara era, was not spent in vain, since he ever engaged in hearing, contemplating, writing down, and chanting the pastimes of the Lord. Purport. As freshly prepared food is very tasteful, but if kept for 3 or 4 hours becomes stale and tasteless, so the existence of material enjoyment can endure as long as life is fresh. But at the fag end of life, everything becomes tasteless, and everything appears to be vain and painful. The life of Emperor Swayambhuva Manu, however, was not tasteless. As he grew older, his life remained as fresh as in the beginning, because of his continued Krishna consciousness. The life of a man in Krishna consciousness is always fresh. It is said that the sun rises in the morning and sets in the evening, and its business is to reduce the duration of everyone's life. But the sunrise and sunset cannot diminish the life of one who is engaged in Krishna consciousness. Swayambhuva Manu's life did not become stale after some time, for he engaged himself always in chanting about and meditating upon Lord Vishnu. He was the greatest yogi because he never wasted his time. It is especially mentioned here, Vishnu Kurvato Bruvatak Kata. When he talked only of Krishna and Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. When he heard something, it was about Krishna. When he meditated, it was upon Krishna and his activities. It is stated that his life was very long, 71 yugas. One yuga is completed in 4,320,000 years. 71 of such yugas is the duration of the life of a Manu, and 14 such Manus come and go in one day of Brahma. For the one day of Brahma, you need is there a long A in the, do you have well, nobody has a book. Is there a long A over that?
No.
A? There isn't.
No.
So could you make a note? Oh, Teki? There's a whole list of things you have, right? That you haven't given. Yeah.
Some of it's on the iPad though, and I tried pulling it off, but I'm just gonna.
On this, on the iPad you had the white one. Anyway, make a note. There needs to be a long A in Brahma. For the entire duration of his life, 4,320,000 times 71 years, Manu engaged in Krishna consciousness by chanting, hearing, talking about, and meditating upon Krishna. Therefore his life was not wasted, nor did it become stale. Text 36. He passed his time, which lasted 71 cycles of the 4 ages, 71 times 4,320,000 years, always thinking of Vasudeva and always engaged in matters regarding Vasudeva. Thus, he transcended the 3 destinations. Purport. The 3 destinations are meant for persons who are under the control of the 3 modes of material nature. These destinations are sometimes described as the awakened, dreaming, and unconscious stages. In Bhagavad Gita, the 3 destinations are described as the destinations of persons in the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. It is stated in the Gita that those who are in the mode of goodness are promoted to better living conditions in higher planets, and those who are in the mode of passion remain within this material world on the earth or on heavenly planets, but those who are in the mode of ignorance are degraded to an animal life on planets where life is lower than human. But one who is Krishna conscious is above these 3 modes of material nature. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who engages in devotional service to the Lord automatically becomes transcendental to the 3 destinations of material nature and is situated in the Brahma-bhuta, or self-realized stage. Although Swayambhuva Manu, the ruler of this material world, appeared to be absorbed in material happiness, he was neither in the mode of goodness nor in the modes of passion or ignorance, but in the transcendental stage. Therefore, one who fully engages in devotional service is always liberated. Bilvamangal Thakur, a great devotee of the Lord, stated, "If I have unflinching devotion to the lotus feet of Krishna, then Mother Liberation is always engaged in my service. The complete perfection of material enjoyment, religion, and economic development is at my command. People are after dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Generally, they perform religious activities to achieve some material gain, and they engage in material activity for sense gratification. After being frustrated in material sense gratification, one wants to be liberated and become one with the Absolute Truth. These 4 principles form the transcendental path for the less intelligent. Those who are actually intelligent engage in Krishna consciousness, not caring for these 4 principles of the transcendental method. They at once elevate themselves to the transcendental platform, which is above liberation. Liberation is not a very great achievement for a devotee, to say nothing of the results of ritualistic performances in religion, economic development, or the materialistic life of sense gratification. Devotees do not care for these. They are situated always on the transcendental platform of the Brahma-bhuta stage of self-realization. Text 37. Therefore, O Vidura, how can persons completely under the shelter of Lord Krishna in devotional service be put into miseries pertaining to the body, the mind, nature, and other men and living creatures? Purport. Every living entity within this material world is always afflicted by some kind of miseries, pertaining either to the body, the mind, or natural disturbances. Distresses due to cold in winter and severe heat in summer always inflict miseries on the living entities in the material world, but one who has completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord in Krishna consciousness is in the transcendental stage. He is not disturbed by any miseries, either due to the body, the mind, or natural disturbances of summer and winter. He is transcendental to all these miseries. Text 38. In reply to questions asked by certain sages, he, Swayambhuva Manu, out of compassion for all living entities, taught the diverse sacred duties of men in general and the different varnas and ashramas. Text 39. I have spoken to you of the wonderful character of Swayambhuva Manu, the original king, whose reputation is worthy of description. Please hear as I speak of the flourishing of his daughter, Devahuti. Thus in the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 22nd chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled The Marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahuti. Hare Krishna. All glories to Swayambhuva Manu. So Swayambhuva Manu is known to be having achieved perfection simply by hearing and chanting about Krishna. That was his specific quality. I mean, when you hear about other Kshatriya kings, you know, there's stories of how they protect their citizens and go to war and do all these different things. But when Swayambhuva Manu, this is the only thing that it's described that he did. Although he obviously did protect the citizens, but this is his prime characteristic. Okay, we're going to move on now to 23, chapter 23, Devahuti's Lamentation. Text 1. Maitreya continued. After the departure of her parents, the chaste woman, Devahuti, who could understand the desires of her husband, served him constantly with great love, as Bhavani, the wife of Lord Shiva, serves her husband. Purport. The specific example of Bhavani is very significant. Bhavani means the wife of Bhava, or Lord Shiva. Bhavani, or Parvati, the daughter of the king of the Himalayas, selected Lord Shiva, who appears to be just like a beggar, as her husband. In spite of her being a princess, she undertook all kinds of tribulations to associate with Lord Shiva, who did not even have a house, but was sitting underneath the trees and passing his time in meditation. Although Bhavani was the daughter of a very great king, she used to serve Lord Shiva just like a poor woman. Similarly, Devahuti was the daughter of an emperor, Swayambhuva Manu, yet she preferred to accept Kardama Muni as her husband. She served him with great love and affection, and she knew how to please him. Therefore, she is designated here as Sadhvi, which means a chaste, faithful wife. Her rare example is the ideal of Vedic civilization. Every woman is expected to be as good and chaste as Devahuti or Bhavani. Today in Hindu society, unmarried girls are still taught to worship Lord Shiva with the idea that they may get husbands like him. Lord Shiva is the ideal husband, not in the sense of riches, of all devotees. Vaishnavanam yata Shambhu. Shambhu, or Lord Shiva, is the ideal Vaishnava. He constantly meditates upon Lord Rama and chants Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord Shiva has a Vishnu Swami Sampradaya, which is called the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya. Unmarried girls worship Lord Shiva so that they can expect a husband who is as good a Vaishnava as he. The girls are not taught to select a husband who is very rich or very opulent for material sense gratification. Rather, if a girl is fortunate enough to get a husband as good as Lord Shiva in devotional service, then her life becomes perfect. The wife is dependent on the husband, and if the husband is a Vaishnava, then naturally she shares the devotional service of the husband because she renders him service. This reciprocation of service and love between husband and wife is the ideal of a householder's life. Text 2. O Vidura, Devahuti served her husband with intimacy and great respect, with control of the senses, with love, and with sweet words. Purport. Here 2 words are very significant. Devahuti served her husband in 2 ways, Vishwambena and Gauravena. These are 2 important processes in serving the husband or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vishwambena means with intimacy, and Gauravena means with great reverence. The husband is a very intimate friend, therefore the wife must render service just like an intimate friend, and at the same time she must understand that the husband is superior in position, and thus she must offer him all respect. A man's psychology and woman's psychology are different. As constituted by bodily frame, a man always wants to be superior to his wife, and a woman, as bodily constituted, is naturally inferior to her husband. Thus the natural instinct is the husband wants to post himself as superior to the wife, and this must be observed. Even if there is some wrong on the part of the husband, the wife must tolerate it, and thus there will be no misunderstanding between husband and wife. Vishwambena means with intimacy, but it must not be familiarity that breeds contempt. According to the Vedic civilization, a wife cannot call her husband by name. In the present civilization, the wife calls her husband by name, but in Hindu civilization, she does not. Thus the inferiority and superiority complexes are recognized. Damenacha, a wife has to learn to control herself, even if there is a misunderstanding. Soridena vacha madhuraya means that always desiring good for the husband and speaking to him with sweet words. A person becomes agitated by so many material contacts in the outside world. Therefore, in his home life, he must be treated by his wife with sweet words. Text 3. Working sanely and diligently, she pleased her very powerful husband, giving up all lust, pride, envy, greed, sinful activities, and vanity. Purport. Here are some of the qualities of a great husband's great wife. Kardama Muni is great by spiritual qualification. Such a husband is called Tejiyangsam, most powerful. Tejiyangsam. Although a wife may be equal to her husband in advancement in spiritual consciousness, she should not be vainly proud. Sometimes it happens that the wife comes from a very rich family, as did Devahuti, the daughter of Emperor Swayambhu Manu. She could have been very proud of her parentage, but that is forbidden. The wife should not be proud of her parental position. She must always be submissive to the husband and must give up all vanity. As soon as the wife becomes proud of her parentage, her pride creates great misunderstanding between the husband and wife, and their nuptial life is ruined. Devahuti was very careful about that, and therefore it is said here that she gave up pride completely. Devahuti was not unfaithful. The most sinful activity for a wife is to accept another husband or another lover. Chanakya Pandit has described 4 kinds of enemies at home. If the father is in debt, he is considered to be an enemy. If the mother has selected another husband in the presence of her grown-up children, she is considered to be an enemy. If a wife does not live well with her husband, but deals very roughly, then she is an enemy. And if a son is a fool, he is also an enemy. In family life, father, mother, wife, and children are assets, But if the wife or mother accepts another husband in the presence of her husband or son, then according to Vedic civilization, she is considered an enemy. A chaste and faithful woman must not practice adultery. That is a greatly sinful act. Text 4 and 5. The daughter of Manu, who was fully devoted to her husband, looked upon him as greater even than Providence. Thus she expected great blessings from him. Having served him for a long time, she grew weak and emaciated due to her religious observances. Seeing her condition, Kardama, the foremost of celestial sages, was overcome with compassion and spoke to her in a voice choked with great love. Purport. The wife is expected to be of the same category as the husband. She must be prepared to follow the principles of the husband, and then there will be happy life. If the husband is a devotee and the wife is materialistic, there cannot be any peace in the home. The wife must see the tendencies of the husband and must be prepared to follow him. From Mahabharata, we learn that when Gandhari understood that her would-be husband, Dhritarashtra, was blind, she immediately began to practice blindness herself. Thus she covered her eyes and played the part of a blind woman. She decided that since her husband was blind, she must also act like a blind woman. Otherwise she would be proud of her eyes, and her husband would be seen as inferior. The word Samanuvrata indicates that it is the duty of a wife to adopt the special circumstances in which the husband is situated. Of course, if the husband is as great as Kardama Muni, then a very good result accrues from following him. But even if the husband is not a great devotee like Kardama Muni, it is the wife's duty to adapt herself according to his mentality. That makes married life very happy. It is also mentioned herein that by following the strict vows of a chaste woman, Princess Devahuti became very skinny, and therefore her husband became compassionate. He knew that she was the daughter of a great king, and yet was serving him like an ordinary woman. She was reduced in health by such activities, and he became compassionate and addressed her as follows. Text 6. Kardama Muni said, O respectful daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, today I am very much pleased with you for your great devotion and most excellent loving service. Since the body is so dear to embodied beings, I am astonished that you have neglected your own body to use it on my behalf. Purport. It is indicated here that one's body is very dear, yet Devahuti was so faithful to her husband that not only did she serve him with great devotion, service, and respect, but she did not even care for her own health. That is called selfless service. It appears that Devahuti had no sense pleasure, even with her husband, otherwise she would not have deteriorated in health. Acting to facilitate Kardama Muni's engagement in spiritual elevation, she continually assisted him, not caring for bodily comfort. It is the duty of a faithful and chaste wife to help her husband in every respect, especially when the husband is engaged in Krishna consciousness. In this case, the husband also amply rewarded the wife. This is not to be expected by a woman who is a wife of an ordinary person. Text 7. Kardama Muni continued, I have achieved the blessings of the Lord in discharging my own religious life of austerity, meditation, and Krishna consciousness. Although you have not yet experienced these achievements, which are free from fear and lamentation, I shall offer them all to you because you are engaged in my service. Now just look at them. I am giving you the transcendental vision to see how nice they are. Purport. Devahuti engaged only in the service of Kardama Muni. She was not supposed to be so advanced in austerity, ecstasy, meditation, or Krishna consciousness, but imperceptibly she was sharing her husband's achievements, which she could neither see nor experience. Automatically, she achieved these graces by the Lord. What are the graces of the Lord? It is stated here that the graces of the Lord are abhaya, free from fearfulness. In the material world, if someone accumulates $1 million, he is always full of fear because he is always thinking, what if the money is lost? But the benediction of the Lord, Bhagavat Prasad, is never to be lost. It is simply to be enjoyed. There is no question of loss. One simply gains and enjoys gaining. The Bhagavad Gita confirms this. When one achieves the grace of the Lord, the result is sarva dukkhanam hani, the destruction of all distresses. When situated in the transcendental position, one is freed from the two kinds of material diseases, hankering and lamentation. This is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita. After devotional life begins, we can achieve the full result of love of Godhead. Love of Krishna is the highest perfection of Bhagavat Prasad, or divine mercy. This transcendental achievement is so greatly valuable that no material happiness can compare to it. Prabodhananda Saraswati said that one who achieves the grace of Lord Chaitanya becomes so great that he does not care a fig, even for the demigods. He thinks monism is hellish. He easily achieves the perfection of controlling the senses, and he regards descriptions of heavenly planets to be no more than stories. Actually, there is no comparison between material happiness and transcendental happiness. By the grace of Kardama Muni, Devahuti experienced actual realization simply by serving. We get a similar example in the life of Narada Muni. In his previous life, Narada was a maidservant's son, but his mother was engaged in the service of great devotees. He got the opportunity to serve the devotees, and simply by eating the remnants of their foodstuff and carrying out their orders, he became so elevated that in his next life he became the great personality, Narada. For spiritual achievement, the easiest path is to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and to serve him with heart and soul. That is the secret of success. As stated by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his 8 stanzas of prayer to the spiritual master, Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasadaha. By serving or receiving the grace of the spiritual master, one receives the grace of the Supreme Lord. By serving her devotee husband, Kardama Muni, Devahuti shared in his achievements. Similarly, a sincere disciple, simply by serving a bona fide spiritual master, can achieve all the mercy of the Lord and the spiritual master simultaneously. Text 8. Kardama Muni continued, what is the use of enjoyments other than the Lord's grace? All material achievements are subject to be annihilated simply by a movement of the eyebrows of Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By your principles of devotion to your husband, you have achieved and can enjoy transcendental gifts very rarely obtained by persons proud of aristocracy and material possessions. Purport. Lord Chaitanya recommended that the greatest achievement of human life is to achieve the grace of the Lord, love of God. He said, Prema Pumarto Mahan. To achieve love of Godhead is the highest perfection of life. The same perfection is recommended by Kardama Muni to his wife. His wife belonged to a very aristocratic royal family. Generally, those who are very materialistic or who possess material wealth and prosperity are unable to appreciate the value of transcendental love of God. Although Devahuti was a princess coming from a very great royal family. Fortunately, she was under the supervision of her great husband, Kardama Muni, who offered her the best gift which can be bestowed in human life, the grace of the Lord, or love of God. This grace of the Lord was achieved by Devahuti by the good will and satisfaction of her husband. She served her husband, who was a great devotee and saintly person, with great sincerity, love, affection, and service. And Kardama Muni was satisfied. He willingly gave love of God, and he recommended that she accept it and enjoy it because he had already achieved it. Love of God is not an ordinary commodity. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was worshipped by Rupa Goswami because he distributed love of God, Krishna Prema, to everyone. Rupa Goswami praised him as Maha Vadanya. Rupa Goswami praised him as Maha Vadanya, a greatly munificent personality, because he was freely distributing to everyone love of Godhead, which is achieved by wise men only after many, many births. Krishna Prema, Krishna consciousness, is the highest gift which can be bestowed on anyone whom we presume to love. One word used in this verse, Nija Dharma Dohan, is very significant. Devahuti, as the wife of Kardama Muni, achieved an invaluable gift from her husband because she was very faithful to him. For a woman, the first principle of religion is to be faithful to her husband. If, fortunately, the husband is a great personality, then the combination is perfect, and the lives of both the wife and the husband are at once fulfilled. Text 9. Upon hearing the speaking of her husband, who excelled in knowledge of all kinds of transcendental science, innocent Devahuti was very satisfied. Her smiling face shining with a slightly bashful glance, she spoke in a choked voice because of great humility and love. Purport. It is said that if one is already engaged in Krishna consciousness and is rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord, then it can be supposed that he has finished all the recommended courses of austerity, penance, religion, sacrifice, mystic yoga, and meditation. Devahuti's husband was so expert in the transcendental science that there was nothing for him to argue about. And when she heard him speak, she was confident that since he was very much advanced in devotional service, he had already surpassed all transcendental educational activities. She had no doubt about the gifts offered by her husband. She knew that he was expert in offering such gifts, and when she understood that he was offering the greatest gift, she was very satisfied. She was overwhelmed with ecstatic love, and therefore she could not reply. Then, with faltering language, just like an attractive wife, she spoke the following words. So we'll stop there. Tomorrow night we'll hear Devahuti's words. Yeah. Wonderful. Human life. Spiritual life. Human life is meant to be spiritual life. You can see, princess, king, sage, and all Krishna conscious. Human life. And it may seem like it's impossible now, and it is in a sense. Mm. In a sense, you'll never find situations like this, But still, there are principles there that we can apply into our lives no matter what condition we're in. It's such a wonderful, glorious literature, Srimad-Bhagavatam. Real education. Prabhupada said, if you can learn this book, if you actually learn this book, it will be equivalent to 12, 20 PhDs. What to speak of you actually follow it. Okay, we're going to stop the reading here, and we're going to open the conversation to reflections, anything that stuck out in your minds during the reading, any questions you may have. There must be a few of those around here in this session. We'll try our best to elaborate or anyway repeat what we've already heard. What could we say after what Prabhupada just said? Very, very deep, enriched. Okay, anybody have reflections or questions or whatever?
Say something because I'm a wife.
You must.
And I was very stuck when we are reading how a perfect wife should be. The wife must.
No, wait a second. You're hearing from a wife.
Yes.
So when she says, "I was struck by what a perfect wife should be," this is more meaningful. Go ahead.
It was mentioned in the verses that the wife should serve the husband with intimacy at the same time with reverence, which seems superficially contradicting, but at the same time it's very true. And the wife should always appear inferior to the husband, according to the psychology of the man.
Mm-hmm.
And also the wife should serve the husband with sweet words, always, even if the husband is not right. I have to say it's so difficult nowadays, because with our bring up, we always think we should be equal. I mean, in both sex. Yes, yeah. At least we have the concept that it should be, but it's what the scripture said is really, contradicting and violating all this. We never think that a wife should act like this, but which is very true actually, yeah. And I can speak from my experience.
This is very deep. This is very deep stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Enlighten us.
No, from my own experience.
Yeah.
So if you have a fighting spirit with the husband, you will never be peaceful. You have to be submissive to a certain extent. Yeah, as stated, even if the husband is not 100% correct, you still have to, be submissive and say some sweet words, or prepare some nice things for him to eat. Then it will pacify him a lot. And it will also save a lot of trouble on both sides.
Yes.
And probably that's one of the reasons, I don't know, maybe that's one of the reasons why there's so many divorce, that marriage cannot be kept, because of the mentality on both sides are not correct. That's my personal realization.
Exactly, that's perfect. Very well said. Thank you so much. Now there is an exception. In the 7th canto, which we haven't gotten to yet, but we will get to the 7th canto when it talks about ideal family life.
Yeah.
This is after Prahlad Maharaj and it's saved by Lord Nrsingadev. And there it is said that the wife is not obliged to follow a fallen husband. Mm-hmm. In other words, now fallen husband means one who is breaking the regular principles and is demoniac. The wife is not obliged to follow such a husband. And neither is the husband obliged to protect a wife who is like that. So there are exceptions, and imagine what chaos there must be in the world today. I mean, I say that imagine because although, we move around and travel and talk to so many people and get to know people and preach and try to help people, but at the same time, we are aloof from those things. So it's maybe a little hard for us sometimes to understand. Once we've been living, a spiritual life, in a society, and we are in a society for so long. But I think that the most important thing that Jayashree just said, and I must say that I'm just so proud of you for what you just said. No, I'm serious. I'm serious. It's very few women who can speak like that, especially in public like this. Who knows how many people are going to hear that, what you just said, this live streamed. Yeah, because it's true that our movement, our society, is still very much in a pioneering stage. It's still very much in the beginning stage. And therefore, 50 years, nothing. You know, when you think of other cultures, other religions, they've been going on for thousands of years. Of course, Krishna consciousness has been going on for longer than any other culture and any other religion. But I'm talking about, you know, Krishna consciousness in the West.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when Tamal Krishna Maharaj decided to pursue a PhD from Cambridge, which was very difficult for him to do because he started very late, and he had to go back and get his bachelor's degree, and it's never been done before. This is a little plug from my sannyas guru. He did something that never been done before. He went right from a bachelor's degree into a PhD program in Cambridge. Never been done before, which was very outstanding. And where was I going? Where am I going with this? Yes. So it's very much pioneering spirit that's still there, and therefore we can't be expected to be anywhere close. Of course, we're in the Kali Yuga. This was in Satya Yuga, so we can't hope to. And if we have hope to do that, we will always be disappointed. If you have false expectations bring disappointment, and no one can live in constant disappointment. No one can. They will leave the position. If you live in constant disappointment, you cannot stay in that position. So we know from Shastra and from Srila Prabhupada's prescient words, you know, he was Trikalagya. I mean, when we read these purports, they were written in, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s. This is 20, 30, 40 years ago. And you hear and you watch, look at the world and see what he said. It was clear. It was like he was here in this time, you know. Amazing. So he said, and the Shastra says also, that it will take 5,000 years for the Krishna consciousness movement to attain the peak of its influence in the world. That's a long time, 5,000 years. That's how long it's been since Krishna was here. You know, 25, 26, up to 50 generations. It's really a lot can happen, especially the way the world is now, how fast things can change, you know. So if we put that into perspective and kind of reduce our expectations in a sense, but still keep our own personal expectations of ourselves to go forward spiritually, then we'll be able to do this. But in the meantime, you know, there's going to be a lot of chaos, and there is, even in our temples, even in the, like you were saying, the divorce rate is still high. Of course, I read an article that said in the millennial generation, at least in America, they're beginning to have less sex out of marriage. They're beginning to do less intoxication. They're beginning to stay with their partners, you know, and the actual they're bringing down the divorce rate. So, you know, I can't help but think that our movement and Prabhupada's preaching and his books, I mean, we've distributed 500 million books since Prabhupada started. 500 million, that's 500 million books. That's bound to have an effect. And Prabhupada told us, even if a person just touches the book, it's pious. They get pious. They hear the kirtan, even if they're just walking by, shopping from one place, and they don't do anything, but they just hear the kirtan. It's pious. It gives them pious credits. And then when they take the next birth, they're more favorable. And therefore, it's so obvious. Some people you meet and they're just so cantankerous, and they're, you can't say anything to them about spiritual, and they just blaspheme and, get nasty and argue. And some people, you say it and say, yeah, that's just what I've been looking for. I was thinking that just Hannah, I don't know if she's listening, she probably will at some point. I keep using her as an example. I don't want to embarrass her, but it's true. She just took it so quickly and so wholeheartedly. Young girl, it's just very rare. Millennial generation. But that's indicative. It's an indicator. You take one grain of rice from the pot and you taste it and you push it, and then you can tell whether the rice is done or not. So we have our fact checker techie on board, traveling with me. The first time I have somebody traveling with me, Bhakti Matt, he's like that also. He just, all of a sudden, hey, yeah, that's right. He just decided, all of a sudden. That's just like us. That's the way we came.
Yeah.
Rare. It's rare for somebody to come like that. Especially if you've been successful in the world. Very rare. And we have our dear disciple, Jayashree, who just spoke so nicely on marriage and the role of the wife in the relationship. And what can I say? It's very rare. It's extremely rare. But as rare as it is, it's still there. The human soul, it's not a human soul, the soul in a human body. The same soul is there in all the species of life, but the soul in a human body, we all have this need. We all have this desire to be eternal. We all have this desire to be in knowledge and not be confused and not be fearful. To be pure, to be pious, to do good to others. Even America, as horrible as it is in some ways, it's very charitable. To this day, they give more charity than any other country. So, therefore Prabhupada gave us this hope, and he gave us this wonderful mentality that we should not become discouraged. Even we see how impossible it seems, but still, even to this day, young people are hearing these books and deciding to change. Like Lily is another one that what we thought of.
There was a devotee in Houston I saw on Facebook.
Cat speaking.
Hare Krishna. I saw on Facebook, there was a devotee I'd met once or twice at Conscious Houston, and then there was another event that we were doing right before we came on the trip. He had long hair, and I guess he was pretty new. I don't know his name, but I forgot his name. And I saw on Facebook that he shaved up. Yeah.
You're talking about Phil, is it?
No, not Phil. Yeah, someone else. Yeah.
Yeah. Different long hair. That's more attachment.
Anyway. Yeah, but I was very surprised to see, and so it is having an effect.
Definitely. Even Phil, I hope Phil's probably watching. Or is not watching. He probably will watch it. And he told me that, because I was teasing him about his dreadlocks, because people with dreadlocks, it's kind of pious in a sense, because they're trying to, you talk Kardama Muni. We just heard about Kardama Muni. He's got matted hair, and he's living in the forest, and he's not bathed, but he's still got effulgence, and he's like a covered gem, So anyway, we're joking about him. He said, "Yes, Maharaj, it will happen someday." So he's got that desire. He knows the better.
Rati has a reflection here.
Yes, Rati Manjari. Go ahead.
She's admonishing the devotees here. She says, "Thank you, Jayashri, for your practical advice. It's very smart and useful." And then she also says, "The young ones like Hannah and Matt are doing wonderful. You kids inspire us and show us the way to go forward courageously in Krishna consciousness." Hannah, old eyes, smiley face.
There you go. Thanks, Rati. Nicely said. And it's what I just perceived is that when we hear and chant together the Srimad-Bhagavatam seriously and get attached to it, we can appreciate things that ordinary people can't in this modern age. And we get a sense of community, we get a sense of family. Is it not? It's really true.
It's so different from reading by yourself.
Oh, here, say that.
I mean, reading and hearing together is so different from you're doing it on your own. So different. Even if because I only hear it for a few days, but even when I'm hearing, the reading by myself at home or in the office, it's so different. The degree of absorption, attention, it's not the same. And yeah, definitely not the same.
Yes, and I would also add to that even if you are alone, and we can't always be, together, but even when you are alone, if you read out loud to yourself, if you hear your own voice saying the truth, saying Prabhupada's words, going into your own ears, it's magical. It's not magical. I don't use that word because that makes it cheapens it. It's the same as meditation. It's the same as mantra meditation. Because all of these verses are mantras. They're sacred, holy, eternal sounds, and you hear your own voice speak them and into your own ear. It's non-different than the holy name. Okay, we're going to stop here. 8 o'clock, time the bewitching hour, so we can get to bed early and get up early, and like all good devotees do. The early bird gets the worm. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Thanks, Rati, for your comment. It was very nice. And whoever is out there, either live or who is going to hear in your own convenience the recording that it was made just now, we pray that you get spiritual enlightenment and happiness and strength and conviction to become Krishna conscious wherever you are, from whatever situation you're in, and let us go down the road together, back to Godhead, back to Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hare Bol, Hare Bol.